The NAIA football season is just about to get started. The summer is winding down, and we are looking forward to talking about some football here on the Forum on Midwest Sportsnet. I'm Joey, along with Corey and Vince and James tonight. We'll talk a little bit more about each of those guys in just a moment because they're great guys and friends of the program, my personal friends. I'm glad they're on with me. But right now, guys, let's start with this lightning round question to get going. Dark horse team. Give me a dark horse team that you think can make a run deep into the NAIA playoffs this year, the expanded now second year of the 20-team field. Corey, who's a dark horse team you think can make a run?
I'm going with Mid-American Nazarene. They have been on the rise for 3 or 4 years now. Adrian Parsons doing a great job over there at quarterback. And look, man, that trajectory, if it goes up anymore, you're talking deep run into the playoffs.
Absolutely, and it's a team that I would have definitely promoted and did all season for a playoff spot and would do it again right now talking about that. James, who do you think? Who's a dark horse team you think could make a run?
I'm going to go to the GPAC and pick Morningside. No, I'm not picking the Dordt Defenders. And head coach Joel Penner returning a lot of talent, got a running back tandem coming back, and I think they made it to the playoffs last year as the third team in that conference. They're looking good again this year. Keep an eye on the Defenders.
All right, Vince, dark horse team, which means it can't be Grandview.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to go to the Frontier. I'm going to go to a conference that doesn't get a whole heck of a lot of respect, but this year I think the little engine that could in College of Idaho has been knocking on the door. A lot of it is postseason seeding. If they can get a solid seed maybe to host, they got a chance.
Yeah, they had to go on the road through that run last year, and even in their first game, and that was against a conference team. So that was really interesting for them. All right, I will go back to the Heart where Corey was, but I'm going to go to the other section of the Heart. I'm going to say Graceland. I think Graceland would be my dark horse team to make a run deep in the playoffs. I think that they have everything there to if it all stays together. And that's the thing. You have to keep everybody on the field. Cade Ross, fantastic quarterback. Gerald Monroe, possibly. I think there's an argument to be made. He could be the best wide receiver in the entirety of the NAIA if the defense is there. And again, dark horse. So I'm just saying, I don't know if they get past Grandview in the regular season. So I'm not having them as the conference champ just yet, but I think they could make that run. We're here on the Forum on Midwest Sportsnet. Thanks for watching tonight, whether you're watching on this Monday night or you're watching the rerun. Thanks for being here. I am joined tonight by Corey from NAIAFBALL, from James from the Champion Sports Network, and also Nelson University Sports Network. The Champion kind of, isn't quite as long. And Vince D'Alicio from the Varsity Sports Show tonight. Guys, friends of the channel, thank you very much for being a part of the show with me as always tonight. Let's get into it. Now, this is a portion of the show where the last couple of years we asked the question, did they get it right? Talking about the coaches or the media or both in some instances in their preseason rankings. Did they get it right? Well, we're doing the show about a week earlier than we have in the past. And so of the 10 conferences, and I know some of them are split into divisions, of the 10 conferences, only 5 of them have their preseason rankings out. One of them coming out just today, the Sooner Athletic Conference, getting that out there today. Jim Powers with some great interviews of the coaches in the SAC. We are going to start, though, with the conference of the defending national champions, and this is going to be in Corey's neck of the woods out in Florida, the Sun Conference. Not every team from Florida, but many of them there. Sun Conference. So these teams, by the way, are listed in the order of the standings at the end of last year. Shout out to Dave, by the way. It is football time. Thank you very much for being on with us tonight, Dave. Appreciate that. Corey, your pick for the preseason, or what would be your preseason favorite there in the Sun Conference? Is it the defending national champions? Because you know what? They have a new head coach.
They do have a new head coach. Miles Russ coming in, has been the recruiting coordinator for basically since the program started under Doug Socha. Socha took a few coaches and went up to Lenore Ryan. I don't think Kaiser skips a beat. I think they go right back. They've got a new / old quarterback in Shea Spencer that's coming back. I love St. Thomas. Been talking about St. Thomas for forever. I just don't know that you're going to be able to stop the engine of Kaiser, especially for the fact that you're returning both Meisinger and Burnett at running back.
That's just big. That is a dual threat there. A backfield like that is just absolutely amazing. Vince, when you look at these teams here, and of course Kaiser, and by the way, the asterisks there are recognizing teams that made it into the playoffs last year. So both Kaiser and St. Thomas made it. The Bobcats worthy of making it the year before. Glad that they made it in last year. Vince, you look at that, and does anything stand out to you, or do you just say, hey, defending national champs?
I think it's Kaiser all the way. Even, being raised Roman Catholic and getting a little Ave Maria action in there, I just don't think they're going to there isn't going to be anybody that is going to dethrone Kaiser. St. Thomas is a distant 1A in the conference, and everyone else just kind of falls behind them.
James, last year you look at these teams, and Florida Memorial really had a solid season. I think they returned some as well. I think they compete to get up there to be a part of what is going on. But your thoughts on that, and what do you see from the Sun?
Yeah, well, I see Vince decides to bring up the Catholicism of Ave Maria and not St. Thomas, even though they were the team that should have been in the playoffs and were snubbed. So they just keep getting snubbed. I guess that's just the story of St. Thomas. No, I mean, St. Thomas is I'll start with them at least. They got snubbed. They changed their schedule last year because they felt they got snubbed 2 years ago. And they played a tougher schedule, road out-of-conference schedule, and still didn't get in. So they're kind of going, what do we have to do to get in these playoffs? So I'm keeping a very close eye on them. But like you mentioned, Florida Memorial, a top 25 offense in the country.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be careful with them. They're bringing back a running back. I do like Florida Memorial, but as we've talked about, Kaiser is quite a juggernaut. Even with the head coaching change, Kaiser's they know how to win without the best players. And what I mean by that is in the championship game every year, they seem to get there, and they seem to be having guys get injured in that game, and they still compete and almost win or win it. So Kaiser is the favorite until someone can step up to the plate and prove that they're the ones who can knock them out.
Vince, I like the running game from Ave Maria. I think that's going to be a big thing, and I think they're going to make a statement in the league. So I'll stay with that a little bit. St. Thomas, Rontavious Farmer, there's a lot to be said for him. I mean, what a fantastic season last year, more than 1,700 yards, 26 touchdowns. Kaiser, though, that backfield is just incredible. You get Shea Spencer back on top of that. I agree with Corey that you don't skip a beat from one head coach to the next, only the second head coach in program history. And, guys, this is why I would say Kaiser, too. Did you see how physical they were in the playoffs, especially in the last couple of games? I mean, it was absolutely incredible what they did and the way they handled things on defense. So that's why I would say Kaiser as well. So we can't say did they get it right necessarily in this case because there is no preseason poll yet. Hope to find out what's going on there. But I think all of us are saying if they don't pick Kaiser, they probably didn't get it right, at least from the forum here tonight on Midwest Sports Net. Let's, by the way, Corey's neck of the woods, I say that too. Corey, you've seen a Thomas game or two recently, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thomas running that triple option. Definitely a team to watch coming into next year. Got some guys that are a little bit more built, a little bit more developed. Definitely looking to go better than that 1 and what odd mark they did last year. It's a fun team right up the road for me. I get the privilege of calling their games both for men's conventional and for women's flag. So it's definitely they hold a special place in my heart.
Shout out, by the way, to Dale Norton watching as well. And, hey, listen, by the way, I know where these two guys are watching. If you're watching tonight or wherever, please let us know in the comment section from where you are watching and go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We're going to go from east to west tonight, and we'll stay out on the East Coast with the Appalachian Athletic Conference. Vince, you said it before when we talked about this conference. It's Reinhardt, and then it's everybody else. Do you still subscribe to that line of thinking?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, until someone else kind of unseats the big dog in the conference, it just going with the safe pick.
I do think that is a safe pick. And by the way, here on the channel, we would talk about picks over the course of the week. Our Thursday night live show picked some games. Picked against Reinhardt against when they played Georgetown, and I'm trying to recall the other game that they played. And Reinhardt won them both, so we'll never pick against Reinhardt in the regular season again. We didn't. They ran the rest of the regular season and had a good year. And Coach Miller said, hey, we'd like to take that on into the playoffs this time as well. James, Reinhardt or the field? And by the way, the list over there, no preseason poll yet. Reinhardt, the only team making it out. That's the order of the standings in 23.
Well, I oftentimes am a little bit bored when people just pick the team that was first last year because you haven't looked at it. The teams change. Why don't you? This is the one conference I go, it's basically Reinhardt. I will take them over the field. They have proven it every year. Even last year, they had some rough moments. They got a little scary. I was very big on Pikeville. I was looking at a quarterback throwing for thousands of yards, and I'm going, this is the year it happens. And it didn't. So, yeah, I'm still right back to Reinhardt. I want another team. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong, Pikeville. Come on, Union Commonwealth. Give me something. Give me something.
Corey, I look at these things too, and I look at Pikeville, which, by the way, Lee Kirkland coming back for this season, so that's a big deal for Pikeville right there. Kirkland is coming back. You look at Bluefield, and Herstich is coming back. I feel like Herstich has just been there forever. I mean, he started as a freshman, and he just keeps sticking around. By the way, the traditional way, not like he's 25 like some of these players still are. Thank God this is the last COVID year. But there are opportunities for other teams and some solid players out there, but it still looks a little bit like Reinhardt. What do you think, Corey?
There are three things certain in this world: death, taxes, and Reinhardt winning the AAC. They finished last year at 26th overall in SP+. The next closest team was Bluefield at 53rd, literally double the ranking. Reinhardt's just too far and away the best team in this conference. Now, you mentioned UPike, and UPike's under Corey Phipps is doing a phenomenal job over there, and I do expect them to start making some strides and challenging Bluefield for that number 2 spot. But for right now, give me Reinhardt.
Yeah, I don't see me picking against Reinhardt in the regular season this year at all. 2 times now, it's been 2 years that the Appalachian has sponsored football. Reinhardt has won that title both seasons. And I think it rightfully theirs again. It's one of those things, I don't always want to say this, they're the champion until they're not. In this case, I think it does play out that they are the champion until they're not. So that's what we're looking at right there. All right, next down the line then, let's go ahead and talk about another conference here. Let's go over to the Mid-South. By the way, all 3 of these conferences used to be one massive, massive conference. Mid-South now with 7 teams. Also, no preseason ranking out just yet. That's coming, I believe, this week. So 2 teams made the playoffs from the Mid-South, Georgetown and Bethel. And then a lot beneath it. That final game of the season, by the way, Bethel and Lindsey Wilson, a de facto playoff game. Bethel comes away with the victory in that one. And James, looking at the Mid-South now, I think there are some tough teams up at the top. I think that there is room for an upset or 2 here. What do you think?
I think of all the conferences, this is the toughest one to find the true leader. Like you look at other, like we just talked about Reinhardt, then you go here to Mid-South and you're going, it feels like a toss-up between Georgetown, Bethel, and Lindsey Wilson. It does feel like a 3-headed monster at the top. I like Lindsey Wilson, third-year head coach. I'm kind of picking them to have a good, I don't want to say bounce back year, but I mean, they won the national championship not that long ago, different head coach and all, but I still think Lindsey Wilson's the one to watch here. I'm a little concerned about Bethel. They've had a lot happen as far as their players leaving this offseason. I think that's going to have an impact on them. But give me a Lindsey Wilson team, 7-3 last year, missed the playoffs. They were kind of saying they should maybe they should have been team number 20 get in, but I think this year they will win the conference and just get the auto bid.
I think and realistically, it did come down to that last game. And if they beat Bethel, I think they're in handily, and they didn't, and it was just tough to work around all the other teams. That 7-3 was just too much to overcome to get into the playoffs right there. And you're right, Coach Kleckler, a part of that program too, by the way, when they won that national championship. Corey, I know that you were covering Lindsey Wilson pretty close back then. I don't see that there's that much that has changed. And Lindsey Wilson, an opportunity here. What do you think about the Mid-South? Corey, we lost your audio.
Whoops, that's what happens when I mute myself. I think Lindsay is going to be fine. They're going to return a majority on both sides of the football, but I don't think they're going to win the conference. I think that you've got a Georgetown team here with an absolute deadly defense that you still return about half of, and with a quarterback in Garrett Slunaker that has made some serious growth over the last few years, and I think he's going to make the next step forward and lead that Georgetown offense.
A number of teams here in the Mid-South, we talk about the teams that are at the top up there, Vince, and Georgetown, again, they make a deep run into the playoffs as well. You expect nothing less with Coach Oliver at the helm there. So what do you see for this year?
Well, and Lindsey Wilson has been one of those teams, a perennial top 5 team. Last year, they fell off just a bit. Bethel and Georgetown were able to both capitalize on that. In terms of 1, 2, 3, this year, it could be any of those 3 teams claiming the top spot. It could even be a shared conference championship. You never know, but I'll never count Lindsey Wilson out. I mean, we've, again, they've been at the top of our rankings the last few years, and so they're in the mix. In fact, they were my plan B in case one of you other guys stole by College of Idaho as a dark horse. So, but anyway, the preseason predictions being what they are, hard to argue with the experts, but you can't count Lindsey Wilson out.
No, I want to count them out. I don't want to count Bethel out either, but I think if I'm looking at it right now and here August 12th, we look at what's going on, I would have to go ahead and stay with Georgetown. Again, preseason ranking from the media and or coaches, whoever does that for the Mid-South, not out yet. My pick would be Georgetown. A big reason for that, Corey talked about Garrett Slunaker. I think that's key. Darius Neal's coming back. Neal was a fantastic running back. By the way, Coach Oliver, a big deal in recruiting this year. He got Darius Neal's younger brother who signed, Darian Neal. So that Neal name is going to be a part of the Georgetown Tigers for quite a while. And then on defense, too. Big key on defense, I think, is the fact that they have a strong defense coming back. Chad Holler, an All-American at linebacker, comes back from Georgetown as well. So I'm going to say if I were forced to pick, I would pick Georgetown right now. And again, did they get it right? We have no idea. Did we get it right? Probably, because it's our show tonight. So we'll just go with that. Let's move on to another conference as we look right here, and we're talking about did they get it right? Well, this one, not only there's no preseason ranking here yet, but I didn't want to put this in the order of the standings last year because in the Midwest and the Mid-East of the Midstates Football Association, they just shifted things around. I mean, they had intra-conference realignment. There you go. Is that a new term? Can I get credit for that one? Intra-conference realignment. They went ahead and just shifted things all over the place.
I'll allow it.
Threw Roosevelt out, said, you go play D2 somewhere. Brought in a D3 school in Defiance, which we'll look on the other side there. But Midwest, okay. Marion makes the playoffs. St. Xavier makes the playoffs. They have to play each other in the first round. I am not an advocate of that. As a matter of fact, I'm an advocate of separating teams as long as you absolutely can conference play. But they see each other in the first round. Other teams with an opportunity, and now Marion coming over from the Mid-East, St. Francis, Indiana coming over from the Mid-East. Corey, let's start with you on this one because you always call the Mid-East a gauntlet. Are you going to say it's the Midwest now?
It's definitely the Midwest now. It's absolutely switched sides, and there's no doubt about it. You've got a whole lot of teams that you don't know a ton about, including an Olivet Nazarene team that's bringing in Avante Mitchell from Lawrence Tech. And you've got teams that you don't quite know what they're going to be. Will St. Francis of Indiana come back and be the dominant team that we know them to be? Can St. Xavier handle all the pressure of having all these teams on their side and still rise above? There's a lot of questions on this side.
Any answers, James? You look through that and you see, Marion is perennially there. And as Corey was saying too, St. Francis, Indiana, perennially one of those tough teams. St. Xavier, perennially a tough team. And it's getting tough in the Midwest now.
Yeah, the Midwest is really bizarre because it kind of sounds like a joke. Like 4 Catholics, a Nazarene, and a Baptist join a football conference, and you go, what are we going to get out of this? So, okay, so here's how I look at it. Yes, you're bringing over a Titan in Marion, just a perennial playoff team moves over. I think, I mean, St. Francis, Indiana, not that long ago was definitely another Titan of NAI college football. And if they resurrect, this is even more of a juggernaut than it is. No, but I'm keeping my eye on St. Francis, Illinois. I think they've got a lot of returners.
Mm-hmm.
I think St. Francis, Indiana. I think Marion, the ones coming over. I think they've lost a little bit from year over year. And how well do they do with the new freshmen? We'll find out. We kind of need a week or two to see. But no, I think St. Francis, Illinois, not to be confused with Indiana, Illinois, generally not viewed as the better of the St. Francis. I think they have a good season ahead of them.
That's really something too, because that's one of those things. The Tumulty brothers, if you're familiar with St. Francis football, you're familiar with the name Tumulty, St. Francis, Illinois, for sure. The Fighting Saints, and it's I think one of the only NAI schools with brown in their logo, but that's neither here nor there. Scott Tumulty is coming back. Sam Tumulty coming back. Joey Tumulty, he's the youngest of the three. He's going to be there again this year. Offense, defense, James, there's a lot to be said for that. I think that's a legitimate point. Vince, you look at these, and is there another surprise out there, or do you stay with someone that's been a favorite?
Gosh, Joey, I look at this list, and I feel like every single one of those teams was in our top 25 at some point during the season last year. And, Olivet Nazarene is one of those. I had a chance. It's been a few years, but we saw them play in it was the Victory Bowl about 4 or 5 years ago. I saw them in person. They were a 500 team and just came to Arizona and just steamrolled with the ground pound of a running game. And I don't think they've been anything less than a strong running team since. Marion, obviously a strong name. Again, Judson was one that we had in our top 25. St. Xavier. James, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think we had St. Francis of Illinois in our top 25 last year. I think it was Indiana. So
I think it was Illinois, just because I think they were the only team in the Midwest. But
in the Midwest. Okay, I'm thinking of the Mid-East.
You're thinking
right? Yeah.
Not St. Francis, Indiana. No, I don't think they were ever in the top 25 because they just never got going last year.
Yeah, but it's up for grabs just based on the fact of the parity in this conference. And what's a shame is that these guys will beat each other up throughout the course of the year and may not have any gas left in the tank for postseason.
Yeah, it was tough for St. Francis, Indiana last year as a slow start, and it never really materialized as the season went on. I think that's a team that you do not overlook coming into 2024. It's just one of those things. But yeah, as Corey said, it's shifted right now, and it's a different feel in the Midwest. Marion, I'm not going to go with them or go against them. Excuse me. Looking at all those teams right there, and again, the Tumulty brothers, that's a whole story in of itself. That could be a 30 for 30 as it all shakes out. Who knows? But with Marion, Zach Bundelow not coming back, you have R.J. Griffin, Tristan Polk that both saw time last year. Griffin saw a little bit more. You see Keegan LaBelle coming back in that running back position, and Marion's going to have they've had a good running game in years past. I don't think that ever really goes away, but it's also going to be a solid defense too that Marion brings out there. So no preseason ranking from the media and or coaches in the Midstates Midwest yet, but this is who we're looking at. Okay, guys, your picks then. Corey, your pick officially?
I have picked against St. Xavier too many times, and they have proven me absolutely wrong, so I'm just going to ride them this year. St. Xavier, give them to me hell or high water.
Vince, your pick officially?
I think it'll be Marion this year.
Okay, James?
I should pick Marion, but I'm going to stick with St. Francis, Illinois. We have a little debate here. We'll check on this at the end of the season and see.
Yeah, I'm
either going to look like a genius or an absolute buffoon, but either way, I'm sticking with that pick.
I'm sticking with Marion in mind just because there's so much talent there, and I know I sound like I'm going with the top pick every time, and that may be the case, but
that's because you are. Yeah.
So far, it's been that way, hasn't it? Well, all right. Well, let's move over to the Mid-East. The new look Mid-East, which includes a former Division III school in Defiance, coming back to the NAIA, as well as a number of other schools. The only team in the Mid-East now that made the playoffs last year was Indiana Wesleyan, and was almost undefeated in the regular season last year. Just couldn't pull it off. Concordia came away with a big-time game. And I'm going to say it's an upset. Now, it may not be an upset because Concordia seems to have the Wildcats' number. But one more ride for Concordia this year, as the athletic department will be a thing of the past. And so Concordia going away. There's a lot to be said for that, and I've heard different things on this. So I'm going to go back to you to start, Corey. I mean, I've heard different things, seen on social media different things. Well, Concordia, what do you do with all these players? Because they know it's their last hurrah, and so they're already thinking about where they're going to go next. Well, you know what? There are a lot of seniors that aren't thinking about where they're going next, and they're thinking about going out with a bang and not a whimper. I don't think you overlook Concordia.
Give Joshua Schumacher all the credit in the world. He has done a phenomenal job of keeping this team together with very limited transfers out. I mean, if I were a freshman or a sophomore, man, I would have been out of there once the smoke started rising. But he has kept the team together for one last shot at it, and honestly, it would not surprise me to see Concordia go on a really deep playoff run just to go off with a red banner.
Vince, that's one of those things too, and I did have a chance to visit with Coach Schumacher, and actually, by the way, please check out the channel here, Midwest Sports Net. If you're not subscribed already, please do. But we had a chance to visit with, I think we were at 58 NAIA coaches at last count, and Coach Schumacher was one of those, Vince. I mean, I was ready to sign up and play 1 year for Concordia myself, just listening to him talk. And I think, by the way, I didn't expend any eligibility in college, so I think I should still have some. I don't know if that counts or not. But, yeah, I think there's a long way. And you look at some of the other teams, Defiance new to the NAIA, Madonna has struggled. That's an understatement. Taylor's had, some tough times getting things going. So you could be looking at 1 and 2 up there, and I don't think you count Concordia out, Vince.
You can't, but again, you go with the proven commodity in Indiana Wesleyan. They had two slips last year, but they're proven. And if we're making a preseason pick, that's my pick.
All right, James, what about you? I say 1 and 2. Siena Heights is a program that's seen success as well, but in the last couple of years, it's been Indiana Wesleyan and Concordia. And Coach Rhodey has just, he's just come right on in and brought a few things over from Morningside. And I'll tell you what, it's been nice what he's been able to do there heading into year 2. I don't think Indiana Wesleyan missed a beat.
No, Indiana Wesleyan runs a first-rate football program. Make no mistake about it. They've got great facilities. They've got a great morale. Like, just the way they approach football is very scary if you're in this conference. So welcome to the conference, Defiance. You better not think that you're just going to roll in here and be like, oh, we were D3, we're coming to the NAI. No, you're not going to be rolling into towns picking up wins. They've got now Defiance had their best season since I think 2016 last year. But that doesn't mean anything, because when you're playing Indiana Wesleyan, you're playing Concordia, you've got to bring your best. You got to bring a really strong team to the field every time. I will say, I looked at this and I went, Indiana Wesleyan should win. They got a lot of their defense is coming back. I think defense is going to be a premium in the mid-states. But give me Concordia, because they beat Indiana Wesleyan last year. Their coach somehow gave the sales pitch of the century to keep all these guys together. I'm scared to play this team. They've got a chip on their shoulders. Watch out for them, too, in week number 3. They've got Marion. And while that's no longer in conference, it is going to be a bitter game.
I would like to see – I think Taylor's going to surprise a team or two this year. I really do. Defiance, when you talk about them, too, it's an interesting schedule for Defiance because they play a transitional schedule, to say the least. 4 D3 schools, 3 teams from the Mid-East, 3 teams from the Midwest. I mean, it's a really balanced schedule if you can say that about what's there. So that's going to be interesting as well. I spoke a lot about Concordia, but let me say something about Indiana Wesleyan. You've got Clayton Mosier coming back on defense. He's a stud. You've got Luke Bays coming back on defense. He's a stud. You don't have Xander Stokes or Tay Williams coming back on offense. Now, that is where I think, somebody else is going to have to step up. Levi Tidwell, great receiver. Whoever throws him the ball, they're going to be throwing to a fantastic target. But it's who's going to step up there in the backfield and quarterback and running back. I still, even though that's an unknown, I'm going to go ahead and just be the, front runner guy that I've been so far through the show, and I'm going to pick Indiana Wesleyan one more time. And I agree with what Dave says there in the comments. Coach Rhodey will get it done. I think he gets it done. But I do think, and by the way, because of the Concordia win last year, I don't care what Indiana Wesleyan's record is coming in. If they were 29-0 coming in, I think they're ready to go when they face them this go round. All right, we're 5 in right now. Are we 5 in? We're 6 in now to the conferences and or divisions. So let's remove that for just a moment. Say thanks to everybody for watching. By the way, yeah, thanks a lot, Champion Sports Network, for throwing that in the live chat. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Anyway, let me introduce the guests as we are close to a midway point in our program tonight. And to my right on the monitor from NAIAFBALL and from the state of Florida. By the way, Henchman, thank you for being on the show tonight. Been seeing your comments lately on social media. Appreciate you being a part of the show tonight. Corey Thorpe from Florida. Thank you for being here tonight. NAIAFBALL, man, you guys have been busy. I mean, you've gone through all the conferences now.
We have. We just finished off the Sun last week. Going to be talking to the home office next week, kind of get a state of the sport overview of what's coming down the pipe for NAIA football as a whole. Go check us out on YouTube. All 13 conferences and divisions are there, and it's been a whale of a ride. I mean, no one gets overlooked. I mean, heck, we even get to talk about Simpson.
I enjoy talking about Simpson. Coach Daniel is a great interview, and I'm excited about what they have going on out there in Redding, California. That's pretty cool. James Lex from the state of Texas, who is with the Champion Sports Network tonight, also has a lot to do with the Nelson University, formerly known as Sagu Sports Network, but the now Nelson University Sports Network in Waxahachie, Texas. James, appreciate you being on the show tonight. What do you guys have going on heading into the season? Getting ready to cover some Lions football?
Yeah, busy season here as we get into the regular seasons. Just literally training camps are kicking off. Biggest thing for us, though, is we're going to be launching a new show covering NAIA football, and we're going to take some of what we've done with our basketball coverage this last spring, bring it to the world of football. There's a lot going on, a lot of teams, a lot of great athletes that we want to and coaches that we really want to profile and highlight, but also go through some of the fun moments of the weekends and get just a fun way to watch through the season. So be on the lookout for that in mid-September. We'll be launching that. You can find us championssports.network.
All right, that's cool. We will be looking forward to that. James, the only of the folks on the monitor with me right now that's close enough that I can drive down and get to be down there. And Vince, you talked about getting to see Olivet Nazarene in a Victory Bowl. I got to see Olivet Nazarene in a Victory Bowl down in Waxahachie just a couple years ago. So that was my opportunity too and just like what you were mentioning, that they came to town and just torched people, that they did the same thing to the Lions down there too. They just came to town and took care of business. So I don't know.
They thought it was a warm game at 40 degrees, too. I'll just point that out. They were in Chicago like, ooh, it's a toasty.
We were all cold and shivering.
They weren't ready for that. They weren't ready for 30 to 40 degrees.
And yeah, they were fine with it. They're like, what do you mean? We're good with this. Vince DeLisio from the Varsity Sports Show and so much other broadcasting going on there in Phoenix, Arizona and thereabouts. Man, we appreciate you being on the show with us today. Still some sunlight outside his window right now as to where he is. But Vince, what do you have going on here mid-August?
Well, not as much as you guys. My gosh, we're just a little tiny program here in Phoenix, Arizona. But we've got our shows. We've got our sports radio program on Saturday mornings here on statewide AM 1060 KDUS, The Deuce here in Arizona, and our weekly show in Houston, Texas on ESPN Radio. 97.5, 92.5. And beyond that, we've got a national reach. We've got our college broadcast internship across the country, up to 20 schools now nationwide. And we're looking forward to making the world just a little bit smaller. We cover a lot of high school sports, a lot of college sports and other activities going on in the community, and try to not necessarily view the world through rose-colored glasses, but there's a lot of people that get paid a lot of money to spread misinformation and bad news, and we try to keep it on the up and up like you guys and stay positive and just have a good time with it. And so it's awful nice. We're 6 conferences down, and we got 22 to go. Holy smokes.
Spoiler alert, by the way, Vince is not a small program. His program is not a small program, either Phoenix or Houston. A lot going on there, and we do try to do the same as well as, and I know everybody here with us tonight is talking about the positive things as much as we can.
Although I don't have a follower named Henchman. That scares me. I don't know what kind of
Joey has Henchman now.
Drawing here. I'm seeing Henchman posting.
Hey, listen,
my followers are like Tinkerbell and Little Blondie. I mean, stuff like friendly stuff. But Henchman,
I appreciate Henchman coming in. He slipped in tonight from the NAIAFBALL Discord chat. So that's where I've seen Henchman recently, and he's had a lot of cool things to say too. So appreciate you being there, and thanks for subbing. You need to do that. Praise God. That's great. We enjoy that. All right. Player, let's move on to this before we go to another conference. Let's stop for a moment. And player that you think is going to have a great year, you can mention more than one. I'll get started because I've already talked about him. I think Rontavious Farmer is going to have another fantastic year. I just and watching what he puts out there in social media, I think he was ready to go when the end of the season rolled out last year. He's ready for one more time to get out there. Did I mention? I believe I did. More than 1,700 yards rushing last season, 26 rushing touchdowns, and really led the way to get St. Thomas into the playoffs for the very first time. So I think Rontavious Farmer is going to have a good year, somebody that you should look out for. Corey, what do you think?
I'm going to take a page out of your book here, and I'm going to go with the Graceland wideout, Gerald Monroe. Look, as long as he can stay on the field, he was basically Graceland's leader, only playing 4 or 5 games for them last year in receiving. As long as he can stay on the field, he's a one-man wrecking crew.
He really is, and I meant what I said, and I will say this again in subsequent shows too. I think there's an argument to be made for him being the wide receiver, best wide receiver in all the NAI, and I think that's one of those things where you would just sit down at the little bench out on your college campus and say, "Prove me wrong," because I think he is up there at the top. Vince, somebody that you're looking at that you think will have a fantastic year.
I got 2. I got quarterback at big surprise, Grandview. Yes, Jackson Waring. See, he is one. He's legit. Transferred from Illinois State, a couple years back, Conference Player of the Year. Big things. It's got a big arm. They're expecting big things from him. So you never know. And then I'm going to go on the defensive side of the ball over to Northwestern. There's actually a compelling. This one really struck out to me because he stuck out to me. He's 6'3", he's defensive back. His name is Clayton Bozema, and he also punched for the team. But just a big body in that secondary. I had a ton of tackles last year. Played in every game, and big things expected from him for Northwestern on that defense. So.
Postma's a good Iowa name as well. And, yeah, you're right. He is a big part of that defense. I know we'll talk about Northwestern here in just a moment because we're not that far away from GPAC time. So we'll get down there. All right. James, what do you think?
Well, I cannot believe this guy hasn't been named yet. In fact, I've been looking to make sure he hasn't somehow transferred or left football entirely. But how about quarterback Jalen Gromstad from Northwestern?
He transferred.
He did. There you go, James.
Oh, I thought he's coming. I was looking on there. He must have left because you didn't.
He went to Nebraska.
He went to he's going to try his hand at D1.
I saw that.
Wow. We'll stuff here in just a moment.
Well, he was the one I was like, man, you're talking about players going to make an impact. I think that's a pretty good pick. I don't know that he's going to do great with Matt Rule with the Huskers, but okay. I'm gonna throw some shade at the Huskers because they are first. But No, my other pick, if I didn't have him, I was gonna go with Jackson Waring at Grandview, but Vince already took the top spot there. So I guess I'm left with no quarterbacks in the GPAC.
Listen,
Are there any other quarterbacks left around here?
there are. We'll get to a few more here in a minute. We'll start talking about those Hart quarterbacks here in a minute because I have a roster of Hart quarterbacks, and I know, and I see Corey nodding his head because it's absolutely there. Let's go ahead then. By the way, as we go to the GPAC, not in the GPAC, but Jackson Waring, he stopped by the channel less than a month ago, and if you have not heard him speak, it was a great conversation. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I want him to come back on Midwest Sportsnet, but you need to check that out. Jackson Waring stopped by and just talked about not only football, but about his personal life, and it was just fantastic. So check out Jackson Waring here on Midwest Sportsnet. Let's go to the GPAC. And these, by the way, do you notice there are little numbers out here on this one? There are numbers. You know what that means? That means there was a preseason ranking. And this is how it turned out. So the folks in the GPAC, their preseason ranking, it looks like this. Northwestern at the top, Morningside at number 2. Morningside was picked to finish second. That doesn't happen very often. Dordt, the Defenders, all three of those, by the way, playoff teams in 2023. Hastings, Concordia, it shouldn't say Hastings there. It should say Midland, by the way. Sorry about that, instead of those two Hastings. Man, I worked so hard. I hope there would not be any mistakes, but there we are. So we'll move on with life. Dakota Wesleyan, Briarcliff, Mount Marty, Waldorf, new to the conference as they slip in there as James slips out. And Jamestown goes away, Doane in at number 11. So what do you think, Vince? Top of the conference, does that look right to you? For the first time tonight, I get to ask, did they get it right?
I think they did. And if not, I mean, Morningside's been picked to finish first every year, and last year they didn't win it all. So maybe this is motivation for them to get there. But I think in terms of a good, solid preseason prediction, I think they've got it right here.
All right. Now, Corey, I'm still frustrated about the graphic. I'll get over it here in just a moment. This is where my wife says you got to let these things go. But I will let that go in a moment. But what do you think in that? Because those are three teams at the top. I suppose that's who you expect to see at the top. Is the Red Raiders being at the top? Is that what you expected?
Yeah, I mean, even if you've got no Jalen Gramstad, you've still got a guy in Connor McQuillan who had, 1,900 yards from scrimmage a year ago and 28 touchdowns at your running back position. You're going to be fine. And you're also bringing back a linebacker who he's a new linebacker to you this year, but he's an old linebacker in Parker Fryer coming back from South Dakota. And that's a guy who had 120 tackles for you 2 years ago in a national championship run. You're going to like getting that back.
Yeah, Fryer, another big Northwestern name there as well. So, by the way, shout out to Coach Jamrog. Midland should be at number 4, so go Warriors right there. And the Warriors, in the last couple of years, I mean, you want to talk about a team really that's just been on the outside looking in. That's where Midland has been. And I think that's a fair placement for them at number 4 because it has them just at the outside looking in. That's where when the Warriors, they get that one statement game, that might be enough. Because the GPAC having 3 teams in the playoffs is not, I mean, obviously there's precedent just from last year alone, but that's not out of the realm of possibility. I don't think any year. So, James, what do you think about that? Northwestern, should they be at the top? Did they get it right?
Well, it's hard to pick against a team that keeps going to the national championship every year. So, especially last 2 years, they have vanquished Morningside. Morningside has been the big bully at the top, the Alabama. Well, guess what? New era here in the GPAC. Northwestern's the one to watch out for. Red Raiders were sick of it for years, man. Morningside, they won the national championship 3 out of 4 years, and the only year they didn't win it was that COVID year where things were weird with eligibility and who's playing, who's not for safety reasons. And then Northwestern said, we're tired of losing to them. Show up the last 2 years, won it 2 years ago. So, yeah, should they be one? I have no issues with that. What I have more of an issue with is Dordt at number 3, a top 5 defense, a dangerous team, a team that went to the playoffs last year, got a win, and then lost to Northwestern 7-0. like one score. Yeah, sure. Okay. Their offense didn't score, but you're holding a Northwestern to only 7 points.
Yeah.
Like, people are sleeping on Dort and these defenders. They're bringing back most of their defense on a team that was top 5 in the country in defense. Yeah. Northwestern at 1, no problem. Dort at 3, big time problem. Morningside has been a little bit overrated the last 2 years, and I think this is the year Dort should get a little bit more love.
Well, I'm sorry. My headphone slipped out. Did you say Morningside was overrated?
They are a very good football team.
Okay.
And I think Coach Ryan's done a great job.
All right.
Right now, with who's on the field and who I'm seeing, the Dort defenders are the team that are right behind Northwestern. They're the ones that might win this conference. Morningside is second place, maybe third this year.
Okay. All right. James Lex, ladies and gentlemen, as for the first time tonight, I am going to break the trend that I have set, and I'm going to say, I think it does. Corey, I don't think Northwestern skips a beat. I think they skip a half beat, maybe. So as a musician, that 1 and 2 and 3 and that you always hear with the eighth notes, I'm not going to say they're going to skip a quarter note, but I do think that quarterback now, it became a question mark in July. When Jalen Gramstad, and it was really interesting, by the way, when he showed up at that Nebraska workout and there were some NAIA coaches there that all of a sudden looked around and went, whoa, wait a minute. And word started leaking that Gramstad was at Nebraska. That was interesting. And I think that Northwestern doesn't skip a full beat. They may skip an eighth note, possibly a 16th note. But quarterback becomes a question mark. Now, the flip side of that is at Morningside, quarterback was a question mark last year in a sense. It was different than what we saw from Coach Ryan because it was a 2-quarterback system most of the year. You had Cash Parker throwing passes. You had Lennox Brown running the ball. And then Zach Chevalier showed up near the end of the season, and he can do a lot. And a great weapon in there. I want to know, I'm curious as to who's going to be the quarterback. I think there's a lot that's going to be said for Morningside when that happens. Whoever it is, and by the way, to the gentleman watching, and Dale gave the emoji of he's just going to keep his mouth shut, by the way, after you said Morningside was overrated, James. I don't think they are.
But he also said can't argue based on last couple of years' results. So let's just
bring in the chat here. They had won 75 consecutive GPAC games coming into that, or regular season games too. I think coming into when they did finally get tripped up there and lost a couple games in conference. You have Zach Norton, fantastic receiver. He's coming back. Okay. You have Drew Sellen coming back. So I think that whoever it is, it's quarterback. If they go with the passing quarterback, which that puts Lennox Brown on the at least not in the forefront. I think you throw the ball to those receivers that are going to catch the ball for you. I think you're going to use a Chevalier, maybe a Cash Parker. I think Chevalier may step up, and we'll see what happens in camp. So here's what I'm going to say, James. I went the long route to say I'm going to break my trend. I'm putting Morningside just a bit above Northwestern. The Red Raiders have made it to the national championship in back-to-back games. I know more about the quarterback at Morningside, and I know about the receivers. Yes, Connor McQuillan is a huge running back, but I think that that may be the difference. So anyway.
Yes, bold pick to pick Morningside winning the GPAC. Wow, that's a
big
decision
I don't
there.
know,
Whoa.
Went out on a limb.
Yeah, it sounds like the show has become this is a Midwest Sport Net forum brought to you by Morningside College. Wow. Something going on here.
Listen, honestly,
Mustang Sportsnet now.
That was a tough one for me because I have in the past picked Northwestern as the underdog. And if you go back and you watch the show the last couple of years, you can see me picking Northwestern. So I'm just saying, go back and watch the show. I don't know. All right. And by the way, Corey did say in the chat, Corey says Steve Ryan has stated he's got to find one dude. So we'll see who that one dude is. If I were picking from watching the season last year, knowing nothing about spring, nothing about camp, I think Chevalier made a statement at the end of the year. That's just what I'm. Anyway, all right. Let's keep going here as I'm still out on the limb. So let me get back to the main part of the tree here. Oh, I can do it with the heart. We can get back to the main part of the tree right here. The preseason ranking has come out in the Heart and in the North. Grandview, surprisingly enough, was picked. I'll just tell you right now, spoiler alert, I'm going to go with that, and I think they got it right. However, I have Graceland right behind them. I think Graceland is an unknown because you've got to give me all the players all year long. And, Corey, I'll just leave it over to you right there.
Okay, so I was wrong earlier. There are 4 things that in life that are certain: death, taxes, Reinhardt, and Grandview.
And Grandview, okay. All right.
I mean, look, you've got Jackson Waring. You've got a whole stable of offensive linemen, including 3 that were all conference first teamers. Look, you're gonna line up. You're gonna use Dalton Van Pelt, and you're gonna run the ball all up, down, and sideways of these guys. Now, the one to watch out for, aside from Graceland, is gonna be William Penn.
Absolutely,
it's not an if, it's a win for William Penn.
Yeah, I agree. And I listen, and it was something I remember talking to the SID up at William Penn just after, and actually Avila's SID too. William Penn, that was a home run pick in getting Coach Mark Benavidez there, and I think that it is only a matter of time there. So that's a big deal right there. Also, by the way, St. Ambrose in the Grandview North Division this year, so keep that in mind. This year, the Heart is the largest conference football-wise. 2024, there are 14 teams. I know that's going to change in 25, but for this year, it's the biggest conference that is out there. Peru State, Clark, and Culver Stockton both tied for 5th. What do you think there, James? I know I'm back. I'm hugging the tree now. I'm back at the main branch. I'm not going out on the limb, even for a Morningside pick.
Sorry, got to go out on a limb for a 3-time champion in the last 6 years. Yeah, really going out there with those picks. Well, look, Grandview's weird because they're the team I would have expected to win one in the last 6 years. Like, they've had some excellent teams over the years. They've gotten to host a lot of playoff games in these last 6 years. They're a very good team. I had my eye on Grayson last year when the polls. I was putting them in the top 25. I thought I saw good things, offense, defense. I'm going, this is the year. And then Grandview did what Grandview does. They pound you into the ground 20 feet under, and they march right back into the playoffs. And, you look at the standings, Grandview's undefeated, and the next team has 2 losses. It's only 5 games in this conference, in conference play. So as far as what counted, right? But I think Grandview's the easy pick here. It does feel very much like Reinhardt, but I will say, I kind of want to stop the comparison there because Grandview's a really good team, a very good team. And I think they are a team that will make the deep run.
Grandview, and they are such a good team on so many counts. Let's go with 50 consecutive Heart of America Conference wins. 50 straight wins heading into this season. Yeah. And so, Vince, the next part of the program is dedicated to you to fawn over Grandview just a little bit.
You want to talk about pandering?
Hey, the sun shines on a dog's rear end at least twice a day. So, let me have that. No, but in all seriousness, though, you've got one of the top quarterbacks in the country. You got a pretty good receiver in the name of Toki, and an anchor of an offensive lineman. And I'm told those inside the program are saying this is the best offensive line unit they've had in the last 10 years. So they are pretty good, and they are only going to get better this season.
I think the biggest thing, by the way, about Grandview, and I saw this, trying to recall where I saw it, somewhere on social media, that Grandview just they don't end the season well anymore. They do have a national championship to their credit, by the way, within the past, 11 years, Corey? Was it 2013?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay, 2013 with Coach Woodley's dad, who was the coach there at the time. And I think the thing that surprised me the most, I would have had Grandview going back to, that one would have been a tough game had they met in the playoffs. And it's not a true bracket. I'm not going there tonight, guys. Don't worry about it. That soapbox is way over here in the studio. It's not going to come out tonight. That having been said, though, College of Idaho put 31 points up on the Vikings in that game in Des Moines. Grandview had been holding teams to an average of less than a touchdown a game all season, and all of a sudden the Coyotes come in there and drop 31 on them. And so that was a real surprise. And I think that was something I don't think that will easily be forgotten by Coach Woodley or by the Vikings all season long. Jackson Waring, fantastic quarterback. The defense is great. Let's see what happens and see if they can make a run this year. But was it Universal Grandview, guys? Was that? I think it was.
Yeah.
Okay, but Graceland is still my dark horse team to make a deep playoff run. So there we go right there. All right, moving right along. Let's go from the north over to the south. And, oh, my goodness, this one, hey, this one's going to be fun to pick. And so the preseason ranking out there as Benedictine at the top, I don't think anyone should be shocked by that. They shared the championship last year. Baker shared the championship last year. Mid-America Nazarene shared the championship last year. Three-way tie up there at the top. And Missouri Valley with a new coach, Coach Sheehan coming in, and Missouri Baptist in at number 5, Central Methodist. William Woods starting the program under Coach Mendez. I'm excited about that. Midwest Sports Saturday, depending upon when, and I have, by the way, let me stop for a moment. I have 2 daughters that are pregnant right now. So we're going from 2 grandkids to 4 before the end of 24. My second daughter's pregnant with her first, and she's due in the middle of September.
How dare she?
Oh, for heaven's sake. What an inconvenience.
Which it is. It's a major inconvenience. And if you're watching right now, I love you. But I'm trying to figure out. I've got 2 weekends to go to Fulton, Missouri to a William Woods game to get the season started. I don't know when to go because I don't know when my grandson's coming. So, all right. Well, enough about that. Corey, let's stick with you on this one. Benedictine, Baker, Mid-American Nazarene, did they get it right with the Ravens at the top? This one's a tough one.
There's so much that Benedictine brings back. I mean, literally, you had 5 defensive linemen that were all conference first or second teamers. And you bring back so much, but I'm going to stick to my guns earlier. I don't see how Mid-American Nazarene doesn't make the playoffs, and I honestly think they could very likely win this division outright.
Listen, Coach Hansen, I mean, you're exactly right when you said earlier. The trajectory that Coach Hansen has this team on is fantastic. Parsons, who, by the way, has the record NAIA passing yards. I don't know if you guys knew this or not. It's some ridiculous number. It's like 657. It's video game numbers is what it is. And he did that as a freshman. Well, he is back for one more go-round here, and I think you're exactly right. And we will have a spot a little bit later on, Corey, where we talk about teams we think will be at-large bids. So we'll talk about my at-large, because I have one of them coming out of the Heart South, definitely. I think you could easily have 2 from this division, and, wow, there's a lot to be said. James, Benedictine, did they get it right?
For all the reasons Corey said, yeah. I mean, it's if you have defense, it's good. You have a really strong advantage.
Mid-American Nazarene. So
well, that's why I'm going to pick them, because Mid-American Nazarene's been knocking at the door every year. Knock, knock, knock. Adrian Parsons throwing for thousands of yards every year, and you're going, eventually this team's going to make it in. And I think Mid-American Nazarene suffered the same fate that Friends did last year, which was their poll inertia was too low to start the season. And as they won, they just couldn't get high enough to get in that kind of be in that top 20 versus other schools. They started at 15-10 and they only fell and still landed in the playoffs. No, Mid-American Nazarene is a scary team. They're probably the best number 3 of any of these preseason rankings. Like, if this is a number 3, it's going to be here. I'm looking at maybe the Midwest. But at any rate, this is a very good team. People need to be careful. Baker's the one I kind of feel is going to get lost in this, because they're the one. Hey, guys, we were there last year. Like, we actually made it. You guys were sitting at home. So you should give us some more respect. But no, I think Mid-American Nazarene is the one everyone's scared of, because that offense can put up points quickly, and the defense is nothing to sneeze at.
And a new field, new stadium, all that in the works there at Olathe. And that's another place, by the way, Midwest Sports Saturday is trying to get to this year as well, if Jenna will just have the kid in August. Anyway, no, I'm just kidding. I think, by the way, that's one of those things, too, when you look at this. Mid-American Nazarene, they are on that trajectory. And Vince, well, we got 2 for the Pioneers right now. Are you going to make it 3?
I'm going to say Benedictine, but what I'm interested to see is if the conference champ gets an automatic bid, who's going to get the at-large, and what's it going to take? What do you have to win to get an at-large bid in this conference?
Well, apparently not a tri-conference championship, because that's what happened last year. I mean, they shared it. So, but you're going Ravens on this one?
I am.
All right.
Yep.
This one is tough for me, and I really considered over the summer with the pole inertia. And I know I talked about it on one show, but I almost just had a show dedicated to Friends and Mid-American Nazarene and how badly I felt like they got ripped with pole inertia last year. I'm not done talking about it. I may talk about it all season long because I want to get it out there because I think those two teams did get ripped with pole inertia. Now, again, if you put those teams in, who do you take out? I don't know. Don't have a good answer. Sorry. But I think those two teams were there. Corey, listen to this. Baker, Truman Jules Guard, Mid-American Nazarene, Adrian Parsons, Benedictine, Jackson Dooley. Oh, my goodness. You've got these are players that can start just about any program in the country. And these are some fantastic quarterbacks. Mid-American Nazarene's biggest loss last year was not the Grandview loss. It was the loss to Baker. The Wildcats jumped out on them early, and the Pioneers never could come back. They got to share the conference championship because they beat Benedictine at the end. And what a game that was to get that share of the conference championship in the season finale. I have been talking Pioneers all summer long, but tonight I'm going to say I really think that Mid-American Nazarene might get edged by Baker. And I would say Baker is my pick to take the South. I mean, 1A and 1B with the Pioneers. But I'll give you spoiler alert. I have the Pioneers as an at-large team. I just don't think they're left off this time. I don't. So that is wow, 3 different picks, guys. And only Vince thought they got it right. So Vince, I guess you're in good shape. Yeah, shots fired. Thank you, Henchman.
Joey again out on the limb picking last year's playoff team.
I know. There we go.
I wonder what the next conference holds.
Well, let's see here.
Oh, yeah, you're going to pick the Ottawa Braves again? We're going to pick the 6-6 Braves to go to the playoffs?
That was a crime. Ugh.
Watch it. They will come for you hard and heavy. Those Braves do not they don't hold back.
First off, they were 6-5 going into the playoffs. So I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know.
Well, hey, now those are the rules. They made it the playoffs. I have no, it's not their fault that they won games and made the playoffs. I have no issues there. That's clear.
I've got 3 or 4 soapboxes that I'm trying to keep past arm's reach over here because I don't want to get back on them tonight. It's a preview show, but I was all about that. They did what they needed to do to win, period. I don't care that Kansas Wesleyan had a better record. They did what they needed to do to win. They played by the rules. They got there. Go Braves.
Yep.
So I will say, and I'll just go ahead and take the lead on this one, not really going out on a limb. I'm saying that they got it right in the Bissell division. I just think the Coyotes, I don't know. I mean, that was a tough loss. That was an overtime loss, by the way. And when it comes to, it was the only loss for Kansas Wesleyan in the Bissell division last year. I don't think I don't think it's a surprise to say it was the weaker of the 2 divisions. It was the only loss for Kansas Wesleyan last year. It was an overtime loss to Ottawa that took them out. Winton Ruth. It was Winton Ruth. And in overtime, it literally was Winton Ruth run the ball, Winton Ruth run the ball, Winton Ruth touchdown on a run. And they won. The Braves have a lot coming back. And Coach Davis has the team going the right direction. I think they could make it to the playoffs again, but I would give the Coyotes an edge when it comes to the regular season. So, Vince, what do you think?
You know, I'm still kind of burned over that 6-5 record and winning the conference. I get it. They did what they had to do to win. It doesn't necessarily say a lot for I'm just not used to seeing conference champions finishing just above 500. So, I think in this case, Kansas Wesleyan was one of those teams that we had in and out of the top 25 last year. Obviously, Ottawa. I could see this playing out the way we see the prediction here. But then again, you lose 5 and you win it. So who knows?
All right. Well, I understand what you're saying. I really do. But let me throw something out here really quickly. I've been a fan of the Seattle Seahawks for years and years and years. I mean, we go back to the 80s, and Steve Largent is still my favorite player in the NFL, period. But the 7-9 Seahawks went to the playoffs one year, and then this little thing called beast mode happened. So if you don't know what that is, look it up. Look up Marshawn Lynch and beast mode with the 7-9 Seattle Seahawks in the playoffs. That's all I'm going to say if you don't know that one. Look it up. James, you celebrated with the Seahawks, so you get to go next.
Yeah, last year's Ottawa Braves, at least those Seahawks, they had a losing record too. At least the Braves had the winning record to go in the postseason. And Seahawks got a win, I mean, I don't know if I spoiler alert, but I mean, hey,
Yeah.
they got the win. Ottawa did not get the win last year. Let's be clear on that. But anyway, no, you look here, the team I'm really pulling for to make a run is Avila. They got all their conference, all conference award recipients. They're coming back, so they've got some good guys coming back. I've been watching them every year. I'm like, maybe this is the year. So I'm keeping an eye on them. You look at Ottawa, they lost a lot of players on offense, man. And they lost by 4 touchdowns to a school called Friends. I don't care who you are. You don't lose by 4 touchdowns to a school called Friends and get my pick in the preseason rankings. No, we're going with Kansas Wesleyan. And yeah, are they at the top? Yes. But you know what? Lose by 3 touchdowns to Friends, and maybe we talk next year, all right?
All right, Corey. James doesn't like Friends. He's just not very friendly here on the program. I've talked about being a friend of the channel, but apparently he
keep your friends close, but your enemies close. Keep that in mind.
I mean, fair enough. And I mean, this one's K-Dubs to lose. But if you ask the question, did they get it right? I think that St. Mary should be in that 4 spot. St. Mary had a really nice year last year offensively. Jartavius Martin with over 1,000 rushing yards. You got to look out for the Spires this next year.
All right. I listen. I'm totally on board with that. I think that's a valid point there. And Sterling, by the way, new head coach midway through the summer, so that's an interesting take there. The coaches aren't too high on that switch over right off the bat, but we'll see what happens. Kansas Wesleyan, most of us thought they got it right there, so we'll see how that goes. Let's move on along here. Another conference. Same conference, another division. Kessinger division. This one was a tough one. And one of the interesting things about this, they're going to change every 2 years. They're going to reshuffle the decks every 2 years, and so it's going to have a different look next year. Evangel made the playoffs. Evangel is yet to lose as being a member of the Kansas Collegiate Athletic Conference. They're picked at the top. They were tied with Friends in the coaches poll, picked at the top by 1 point over Friends in the media poll. And Southwestern, fantastic, could be up there at the top, I think. Bethel, new coach, mid-summer. And then McPherson, I think. Well, you could really say a lot about that. And by the way, I'll just throw it here right now. Bethany's going to surprise somebody. Just mark it down, put it down there. Bethany's going to surprise somebody, and I think they surprised more than one somebody. In the meantime, Corey, did they get it right with Evangel?
I know they haven't lost yet, but you've lost the heart and soul of your team with R.J. Wakely. We saw what happened when Wakely went down in the playoffs against Bethel. The entire team wilted around Wakely. You got to have a quarterback. It's the most important position on the field. I don't know that they know who their quarterback's going to be. Give me Friends. Give me the triple. Give me hard hitting with Elias Pino and Jet Cheatham and Lakin Cloudis and Cavante Baker. I mean, stop them.
Well, James, you've already made it known what you feel about Friends, and you don't lose to Friends. So did they get it right with Friends not being the top team in the Kessinger division?
Well, this goes back to your philosophy. Do you go, well, Evangel, since moving to the KCAC, they've done great in just about all their sports, by the way.
Yeah.
Their basketball team was the 15 seed in the tournament last year, and they made it to the final 8. And then their football team goes undefeated in the regular season. They're going, we love this conference. We should have moved here years ago. No, you haven't lost yet. It's hard to disagree, but their playoff performance last year was not a stunner. And yes, it's always tough when your quarterback goes down. It's true, but still without him. You could kind of tell, it all kind of fell apart without him. And you go, all right, well, this team's maybe not that good. Friends is a weird pick though, because Friends, they had 4,600 rushing yards and 400 passing yards on the season. So they're just running nonstop, right? I mean, that is the formula. I'm going to pick Friends though, because you know what? They have so many juniors and seniors coming back this year. They got upperclassmen coming back. And I think they kind of got snubbed in the playoffs. And I think they're going to make the run that Evangel did last year. This is the year they're going to go 9-1, 10-0, something like that. And they're going to be in the playoffs. And they're going to have all the love from the poll inertia now. They'll probably be top 25. They'll be about maybe 15 come playoff season. And
Will they see? That's my question. Will they have all the love, or am I just? I mean, am I going to stand on a street corner and preach the Friends gospel out there to let people know how good a team they are? And it was what 46-11, 47-11, whatever it was averaging 419 yards a game. I mean, those are like 1970s Oklahoma Sooners.
42 passing yards a game. I'm just looking at it.
42
passing yards a game in
419 rushing
2024.
yards a game, which was just absolutely. I mean, that's crazy though. But that's my thing.
Yeah.
Are they going? Will they get the love? I hope.
Yes, because I think yes, because in the coaches poll at the end of last season, they were getting into the 20s and the low teens. So I think now they bring back so many players. I think they're going to start in that region and they're going to go up. Maybe again, I don't think they're going to go up 20 spots, but I think 8 to 10 spots maybe gets them in the upper teens. They're in.
You've already accused me in the chat of pandering, so I'll just go ahead and say with it. I'll pander if it's going to say that I do think they deserve to be up there, and they need to start the year up there. And if they lose, they lose. But don't get them outside looking in. I've got some nice stats on how long that Friends stayed out of the ranking, not rating, and stayed out. Did you guys know I made it 70 minutes into this show without saying that? Anyway, how long they stayed out of the ranking, not rating, and it was something. All right, Henchman, by the way, talking about McPherson, they're a tough team to watch, and actually, they did got some money going on out there too. I think McPherson is a big team. Corey, I'll drop these names again for you really quickly as we talk about the Kessinger names like Tristan Szabo. Yeah, McPherson has it going on right there. Braden Howell. Think about that with the Mound Builders. That's going to be if he's healthy and stays with it, because he wasn't there 2 of the last 3 games, and so that was a big deal. And then of course Cavante Baker, and I don't think you can say enough about him. Vince, on board with Evangel being at the top. Did they get it right?
Well, I'm looking through Evangel's schedule here, and they've got that season kickoff at Salina, Kansas against Wesleyan.
Yeah.
Wesleyan, I can really see them running the table and playing for the conference title October 26th at Friends. I think that they could very well get to that point, even getting past the Braves. And if they can make it to the 26th unscathed, then they should hold true to form and what's predicted here today.
I'm glad you brought that up too. I think that's a huge game. Evangel in Salina taking on Kansas Wesleyan opening weekend there on August 31st. That's a big one. KCAC schedules, they all play each other. 12 teams, there are 11 games on the schedule. And by the way, you mentioned something else, Vince, which is very much a valid point. Evangel has to go to Wichita this year. And that was a big deal. And Friends in that Evangel game last year, and this is going to sound like I'm carrying the water, so be it, 5 turnovers. Evangel's defense did a good job. So let me go ahead and tell you, first off, I'm going to say no. I think Friends should be at the top. And part of it is because this year Evangel versus Friends is in Wichita. So I want to give the edge there when it's head-to-head. But you talk about Evangel's defense, they're going to break in a new quarterback. As Corey mentioned, that's a tough loss right there. They're breaking a new quarterback. But Bradley Myers and Zach Myers, both All-Americans, Bradley Myers had 151 tackles last year. I mean, of course, Friends had 5 turnovers against that defense. My frustration in, again, the scheduling is this. If you know Evangel, when you look back at the playoffs last year, guys, Evangel went in undefeated, and their first playoff game was on the road. And they lost. So it was kind of like Bethel from 2022. Bethel goes in undefeated. Bethel goes on the road. They lose. And that both of those, it was frustrating. So up to watch. And anyway, but without Wakely, it was kind of a big deal. I'm still going to go. I'm going to say no, they didn't get it right. But in my defense, James, I'm not going too far out on the limb on this one. It's a very strong branch against one of the top running. This was Friends, by the way, 4th highest rushing total in NAIA history last year, and the greatest average per game at 419. Per game. So there we go.
Well, compared to your other pick, this is such a dark horse. So we'll take it.
All right, let's move on along here, and I don't want to waste y'all. I'm very thankful for your time. Everybody watching tonight, thank you very much. Please subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that. Thanks for watching. We move over to the North Star, and it's our final North Star preview. As the North Star are the ones that are left, other than Jamestown, who is Division II, and this is just a stopover in the North Star as they leave the GPAC. They're heading to Division II next year. So they'll play in the North Star this year. The rest of those teams are all going to be a part of the massive Frontier Conference next season. Wow, that's a whole nother video right there. Dickinson State, 9 consecutive conference championships. Dickinson State, 37 consecutive conference wins dating back to 2018 and when Valley City State won. Corey, are you going to say there are 5 things?
I was definitely wrong.
Okay.
Definitely 5 things. Death, Texas, Grandview, Reinhardt, Dickinson State.
Okay. They win it going out?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Mayville, I think, is going to take a massive step up this year, but Dickinson State is just bringing back everyone and their brethren. It's just not fair.
That is true, and I think there's a lot to that. I think Dakota State takes a step up if they have people that are healthy all year long. I think that goes a long way for them, so I think I would say that. Jamestown, I have no idea how that's going to pan out. Vince, in looking at this, are you there with Dickinson State?
Dickinson State's always been one of my favorites throughout the years in that they've been right there, just on the cusp. And then they get to the postseason and they struggle. But in terms of winning the conference, it should continue.
All right, James, did they get it right?
Well, I think you had the Freudian slip earlier when you said 30 seconds, because that's all the time we need to even talk about this, which is Dickinson State wins the North Star. The entire conference is going to disappear, much like astrology should, and it should just dissolve, and we should never think about it again because it's completely worthless. Because look, it's Dickinson State every year, and we go, "Hey, this is the year Mayville State takes the step forward." Oh, Jamestown's new. Just go ahead, hand it to Dickinson State. Save the snow and the cold games that all these players have to go through. Just hand them the trophy, and then they can go to the first round and lose to Grandview.
All right.
Hey, they won their first round game last year.
They did last year. They did.
Yes,
a little
they did win
facetious.
it. That's all right.
They do get some wins in the playoffs. We do need to give them some respect in this area. You know, it's tough to schedule, right? I mean, there's a whole reason Frontier is going to form next year and be a super conference up there because it is tough, and there's the distance is so massive between these schools. But yeah, they get some wins, but like Vince was alluding to, they're not making deep runs. You can just kind of check mark. Yeah, they're at the top. Valley City has beaten them or gotten close in the last couple of years, but nothing to write home about.
That's going to be an interesting one in a couple of years or whenever it falls. The Arizona Christian at Dickinson State and home and away with that one as it goes along. No, they didn't get it right yet because there hasn't been a ranking, but they're going to pick Dickinson State. There's no way they don't pick Dickinson State, and yes, they got it right. Moving on along, let's go here to the Frontier, the aforementioned Frontier. 2 more to go, guys. 2 more conferences to go here, and College of Idaho at the top. Well, of course, they made a nice run to the semis last year, and that was a very good College of Idaho team. Montana Western, also a playoff team. Montana Tech, also a playoff team last year. So tell us a little bit about this one. Corey, what do you think? College of Idaho, they get it right?
Yeah, I definitely think they got it right with College of Idaho. I mean, anyone who can go into Des Moines and make a laughing stock of that Grandview defense. And my camera's dying, so I'm going to go to just a picture until I can fix that problem.
Wow, that looks great.
Corey,
thanks.
You've never looked better.
Thanks. But yeah, I mean, and anyone who can make it inside the 5, like 4 or 5 times against Kaiser, yeah, no, they didn't get any points off of that, but you push Kaiser to the edge, yeah, I'm taking College of Idaho. And further, I am loving the fact that Southern Oregon is getting some love. Yes, Montana Tech is going to be amazing, and that first game against Georgetown is going to be peak, but I really like what I've been seeing out of Southern Oregon over the last year or 2.
I have to ask Hinchman because I think I know the answer. This is your conference, right, Hinchman? This is where you call home, or at least the conference that you're digging. Speaking of those diggers from Butte, so anyway, yeah, I think that that was a big deal. I talked about Kaiser being physical. That the fact that College of Idaho got inside the red zone and got close as many times as they did is a statement to the College of Idaho, but it's also, I think it's a bigger statement of what Kaiser did in that playoff game to keep them out of the end zone. And I think that really is what propelled them into the title against Northwestern team because they knew they could stop anything at that point in time. Vince, starting to get into close to your time zone now. Some of these are out there in your time zone. So College of Idaho, the Yotes, and Coach Morosky, I mentioned off the air a little bit earlier, he's one of the coaches I got to visit with this year. I could listen to him for an hour and a half or 2 hours, just listen to him talk. I mean, he's just got so much wisdom. They're picked at the top. What do you think? Did they get it right?
Yeah, I think so. And they've been, again, good deep run last year. They've been knocking at on the door. Montana Western is getting some love this year as well as the others. I'm scratching my head and wondering why in the heck Arizona Christian is in this conference. I don't know. I know these guys, they're good guys, but it just doesn't make sense from a logistics standpoint, from a travel standpoint, from a, the what they're recruiting and in the system that they're in. But apparently they know a lot more than we do, and it works for them. So, but that pick is pretty low. So, but yeah, getting back to the top, College of Idaho all the way here.
Okay, now having said that, though, Vince, they struggled last year in the Frontier. I mean, I really would. Last year, I would have picked them higher, but the Firestorm struggled. But I think that they know, and having talked with Coach Bowen recently, I think that the adjustments are going to be made. I mean, it was they had to get new books on everybody. It was all new all the way around. They played only 2 teams that they'd played before. So a shout out, by the way, to Steven, who is watching tonight. He's the father of one of the players that used to play for the Texas Wesleyan Fighting Dalton Dales. So we appreciate him being on the program tonight. Glad that you stopped by, Stephen. Keep on watching. We're almost to the Sooner Athletic Conference right now. Yeah. College of Idaho at the top.
Hey, and Joey, and by the way, you're Mr. Henchman there, whose last name, if he's part of the Frontier, I wonder if his last name's Kaczynski. He mentioned Andy Peters in being the quarterback from College of Idaho. So he makes that train go. And so I wouldn't count those guys out, particularly this year as being one of the top returning players, if not, within the Frontier, but in the country.
Peters is one of those quarterbacks, like another quarterback in the conference. He reminds me a little bit, and please, for those of you who know the Frontier better than I do, I'm not going to say it's an exact analogy, but the fact that he is so versatile, Jack Perka is so versatile, that both of those two guys, I think there's some similarities there, and I think that they're both fantastic quarterbacks. James, as you look at this, is there anything? Did they get it right with College of Idaho? It's tough to say no. I may, but it's tough to.
Well, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say Simpson's going to win the conference this year.
Heck yeah.
Simpson is, I believe, joining. Is it next year, Corey?
Next year, yes.
Yeah.
Now, they are a scheduling partner, if you will, for this season. So Simpson, by the way, has 10 games, and I think 6 against current Frontier teams.
Yeah. Well, if I could pick them, I've heard you always go with the Simpsons. But at any rate, I think I like this ranking. The Southern Oregon at 3, I'm struggling with because I think it is a tough call with them and Montana Tech. I think Montana Tech proved themselves. They got a lot of guys coming back on defense. I think Montana Tech's a very, very good team. And they got their first taste of the playoffs. I didn't think they did terrible. I mean, they didn't win, but wasn't bad. Southern Oregon, they had some rough losses last year. They did get the kind of the marquee win against College of Idaho to end the season. Yeah. And I think that's kind of why they're number 3 here. I think that reminded people, hey, this is still a good team. And we always tell every year we say the Frontier's tough because they beat up on each other. Well, there are more teams now in the Frontier. And so they're not as much beating up on each other. They're starting to get some separation. I like College of Idaho. They're a very good team. But I'm picking Montana Western because Montana Western, a lot of returns. They got a quarterback coming back, 3,000 passing yards. Mm-hmm. Got a running back coming back. They they lost to College of Idaho twice last year. I get it, but it was by 1 score each time. That's it. They're 2 scores away from the last year being completely different. So, yeah, I think this year is a little redemption for Montana Western.
It was tough. By the way, Henchman talking about the quarterbacks, Peters, Thielen, Palandry, the Montana Western quarterback, and that's why I'm going to say I don't think they got it right by just a hair. I'm going to go ahead and go with Montana Western, too. I'm going to go with the Bulldogs here. And here, that's a big part of it.
Welcome, Joey, to the bold pick side here.
Well,
Welcome.
still, I haven't gone too far. It's still the number 2 team. But anyway, no, I will do that. And you're right. These games were played on both campuses, a 2-point game and a 7-point game. And Montana Western came up on the short end. Sorry, Henchman, I'm not taking the Diggers in this one, although I think you have a legitimate statement there. And I agree with Corey. I'm glad Southern Oregon got some love. And when's the last time that anybody remembers Carroll being picked 5th in the conference? I mean, seriously, that's something. But I'll say
terrifying, actually, because they might have some dude whose dad played there who's coming in we don't know about, and he's going to come in and start rolling some people on the D line.
I'm taking Michael Palandri to Eli Norse many times this year, and I'm going to go with the Bulldogs. So a couple of College of Idaho, a couple of Montana Westerns in there. So it's all right. Henchman forgives me. It's okay. We all make mistakes. Let's go one more conference, it is full-on conference this time, and then we'll start to wrap things up here with a couple of questions at the end. The Sooner Athletic Conference. This ranking came out today. OUAZ at the top. And I'm going to go to Vince first with this one because I think I know the answer here. The Spirit were 8-1 last year. 7-1 in conference play. Didn't make the playoffs.
Well,
did they get it right to put OUAZ at the top?
Share of the conference title. I don't know that it matters that they got it right, which they did. The issue is that these guys, this conference gets no respect nationally to where, you win the conference championship. Yay, let's celebrate. The next week, you're going to Sioux City, Iowa as a 15-seeded team to play, the number 2 and only to get 50 points smacked on you and sent home. So I don't know. I don't know until there's a little more national respect here and how these teams are seeded as the outright conference champ. I don't know that it's necessarily an honor to pick to win this thing because of what happens the week later when you get into the postseason.
It really is interesting, and you look at that, which, by the way, Sooner Athletic Conference had their virtual media day today, and Jim Powers, who's the associate or assistant conference commissioner, Jim, if I got that wrong, it's one of those titles for communications up there. The conference's SID, for lack of a better word, hosted all those, and I thought it was interesting in listening to his comments with the coach, talk to all of them about that their Sooner Athletic Conference has some very good play. It's just not recognized nationally, and it's kind of one of those things that you're going to have to get a win, but it's tough to get a win if you're OUAZ playing in Sioux City. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a catch-22. It's paradoxical to think about it, but there you are. OUAZ, Corey, at the top, Louisiana Christian, the conference's only playoff team from last year, who, by the way, gave Baker a very good first half, and then the second half, not so much at that point. The Wildcats and the Rams, both with new head coaches heading into this year.
That is the big story in the Sooner this year is the new head coaches, and that's why I think they got it right. You've got a team that always seems to find guys out of absolutely nowhere in OUAZ, and I'm going to take them because if I don't take them, they win anyway. Tex West is still going to be good. Tex West is still going to be good. You've still got Ernie Caesar. You're going to be fine. Mm-hmm. You just got to find a way to, make Carson Rogers be comfortable in that system. LC is still going to bite someone because it's what they do every year. Every year that they're underrated, they go in, they beat Langston and ruin their season. They're still going to do that, but this is Ottawa's to lose, except for a regional powerhouse, North American, who is going to sweep through like a tornado.
Scheduling partner, by the way, for the Sooner Athletic Conference, just to be clear, and I did make sure, because people have been saying, one way or the other, are they part of the Sooner Athletic Conference? They are a scheduling partner, and again, I'm dropping Jim Powers' name on this one because I got officially on that. So, but
hey, Joey, real quick, there's a rumor has it that the AD at Texas College called you today and offered you the head football job. But I hate to tell you, he left Corey, James, and I messages yesterday offering us the job. So
okay,
I don't know.
I think I think that's a rumor, Vince. I think that I can't verify.
I don't know. My inside sources are telling me that's what happened. I don't know. So.
Texas College, by the way, they're at the bottom of this list. Arkansas Baptist. I'm going to say this one, just like I said this. I think they're going to surprise somebody. They are going to surprise somebody in that whole thing. Let me say something real quickly about Langston. When you mentioned that too, and I'll head over to. I think it's. James, have I not gone to you yet? Okay,
yet.
Well, I'll transition to you on this one. Langston is a good 4 pick, but I think they could be up the top. And I think one of the things about their schedule, it's a little bit different this year. Langston's schedule has been backloaded the last couple of years. And so, they really start out 6-0, 7-0, something like that, and then the wheels come off. And now, granted, it didn't help having losing the starting quarterback last year midseason either. But I think when their schedule, we'll see how it plays out, but it'll feel a little bit different this year.
Yeah, I think so. So just to be clear, are you saying Langston wins the conference?
No, it's not my turn yet. I was just giving a segue.
Okay. I was just checking, because if so, that was going to be a nice little.
You mentioned Langston earlier. I just want to throw that up. What do you think? Did they get it right with OUAZ? I'll officially ask the question.
Well, here's the reality. You talk about the Sooner Athletic Conference. This is, whether people want to hear it or not, it's one of the worst conferences in the NAIA for football. It's one of the best conferences in the NAIA as far as sports. You got a lot of great baseball teams, softball teams, basketball teams. Langston was in the national championship in basketball this last spring. Like, it's just how it works. A USAO, baseball champions. But, football, it's a wild card. You literally flip coins. We're at the point they are tied so far. They go in the tiebreaker. You're almost at the point they're flipping coins to figure out who wins. That is no joke right there. Okay.
Yeah. If Texas Wesleyan just doesn't lose to Louisiana Christian in the final game of the season by more than 9, they win it outright, and they lost by 10 on a field goal.
Yeah. And people are like, why are they cheering for this field goal when they won? Because again, it's just the respect's not there yet, and I kind of get why, because it rotates every year. Now, that being said, Ottawa and Coach Nesbitt, he's a very good coach. He knows how to run high-powered air raid style offenses. He's got a quarterback coming back who can throw. He doesn't have very many receivers from what I've seen so far coming back. I think it might be a little empty out there, but he's going to find guys. And in this conference, yeah, right now it's a 3-headed monster, but you have to watch Langston. Langston is a powerhouse. They are the sleeping bully. And as you've mentioned, Joey, they've been in the lead heading in the last few weeks, and they've just melted down. Mm-hmm. At some point, they're going to figure it out. And if there's a year to do it, this is the year, with new head coaches at LCU and Texas Wesleyan. Maybe Ottawa doesn't find those receivers. Maybe their defense struggles. Langston, he could easily win this. But for now, I have to pick Ottawa as the favorites.
Langston's trip to Louisiana Christian there in Pineville early in the season, that's a big, big matchup to watch there. I think that says a lot about both programs when they go down there and do that. OUAZ, I'm going to say they got it right. 8-1 last year, a 9-game schedule again this year. Coach Nesbitt had said that Arizona Christian, that it was frustrating that they left them off the schedule this year. It's tough to get national recognition if you're not playing outside of your conference, and that's a tough one for Arizona Christian. Now, OUAZ, I think they have Simpson on this year, which, by the way, we didn't talk much about Simpson. We need to mention them a little bit later on. But Luke Giron coming back, this is an offense that can score. And I think if the defense plays pretty well and the offense plays really well, that OUAZ not only wins the conference, they make it to the playoffs. They could go unscathed. Now, a lot of things have to happen. I'm just saying, and I haven't said that yet. I think OUAZ could go unscathed. So I think that they got it right with having them at the top.
Yeah, I confirmed Ottawa is playing Simpson. That's their only non-conference game. It's been Arizona Christian. But
all right, don't forget about these teams, by the way. Simpson, I know we didn't talk about. We talked about it a little bit. John Melvin is not an NAIA team yet, but they could be sometime soon. North American is an NAIA team and not a Sooner Athletic Conference team, but
it's a guy I went to high school with, Joey, John Melvin. It's actual school.
It is. They are the Millers. They have my favorite blue and green. I love it. Some great colors there. And then Rio Grande will be a member of the Appalachian Athletic Conference in 2025 as they are starting their football program back. Had a good chance to visit Coach Quincy Wilson a little bit earlier. If you haven't seen that yet, please check it out, Midwest Sports Net. Please subscribe to the channel. We would appreciate that greatly as well. All right, let's take the graphic down and just have us up here for a minute. And we start to wind down really quickly, guys. Just a couple more questions. I would ask you this. First off, we talked about who the conference champions are. Who do you think would be then an at-large bid? So whoever you thought was a conference champion can't make this list, but there are going to be 7 other teams that get at-large bids into this 20-team field, second year for 20-team field in the NAIA. So what do you think? Let's go, James, let's go your direction first. I've had you go last lately. I apologize.
Oh, I'm terribly offended. No, as far as so we got to pick teams that are at large, which means they're good enough to get to the playoffs, but not good enough to win their division.
Or it's not somebody you pick to win their division.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say they're not good enough to.
Yeah, well,
you've already.
Apparently, if I don't think they're going to win the division, they're not good enough to win the division.
You've already given everybody enough bulletin boards and material tonight. I'd like to keep that in the lower right-hand corner.
Look, I've stated the truth here all night, so obviously that means I got to put Morningside here. I still think they're a really good team. I think they're dangerous. They got a good coach. They know how to win. I think they're an at-large team, and I think they make maybe they make a little bit of a run. But no, they're definitely going to be in the playoffs. It's Morningside. Let's not get it twisted, guys. Let's not get it twisted. It's Morningside. They'll be there. I think if you good.
No, I said all right. No, I'm just agreeing with you. That's
another team I think is going to be back, and it's in that very bizarre division. Is I think Baker is gonna be back. How that I just don't know how that conference is going to shake out. I really need to see a couple games to really make sure. But between Mid-America, NAS, Baker, Benedictine, but I think there's a chance Baker and MNAS get in, and maybe Benedictine's on the outside looking in. Maybe it's possible. Maybe I'm wrong there, but I'm looking for that. And then obviously a team from the Mid-South. Man, I'm picking Lindsey Wilson to win right now, but so I guess Georgetown is getting the at-large, but tough decision there.
Corey, what do you think?
I mean, now that we can get 3 GPAC teams in, you've got to go with Dort. I picked Northwestern to win. You got to have Dort in there. St. Thomas is another team. If Kaiser's not going to win, it's going to be St. Thomas. It's going to be one of those two. I do think Southern Oregon can take a spot this year as an at-large. I think the Frontier will get 2 teams in for the first time in forever. But yeah, I mean, I think if you take our disagreements on division winners and submit those all as at-larges, you're going to probably hit about 90% of your at-larges.
Vince?
I'm going to have to agree with Corey regarding the GPAC in terms of with 3 going and Morningside, Dort out in the Frontier. I like Montana Western as an at-large. I think that they get through the season, they keep it relatively close, competitive, and give College of Idaho a good run. Then we could see Montana Western getting in. Benedictine, again, Heart of America. If Grandview wins it there, then we could see an at-large for them. It's the parity this year within the conferences. Again, if these guys don't beat each other themselves up within the conferences, then we could see some pretty strong at-large teams coming out of this, and it could make for an interesting postseason.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and throw a whole lot of them out there that I was just torn as to where to pick, and I know I officially said Baker, so that means my at-large team would be Mid-America Nazarene, but I do think the Pioneers have a very good chance to win that conference or win that division outright. Same thing in the North and the Heart. I do pick Grandview, and there's no qualification there. I pick Grandview, period. But I do think that Graceland not only has the opportunity to get an at-large bid, but to make a run deep into the playoffs. And so I think that's a big deal. And then same thing with the Frontier. I mean, I'm picking Montana Western by a hair over College of Idaho. And so I'm thinking College of Idaho then becomes my at-large team. If that's the case, as Hinchman's giving 7 teams to the Frontier Conference. I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll see on that one. And just because I'll go a step farther, because I picked Georgetown in the Mid-South, I think Lindsey Wilson sneaks in as an at-large. So there we go. All right. But I'll tell you, by the way, game you're looking forward to. Give me a couple of games that you're looking forward to, and then we'll start to wrap this up then with this one. One game in particular I'm looking forward to, guys, is a one that I'm going to be at. Lindsey Wilson at Texas Wesleyan. I'll be down in Fort Worth, Midwest Sports Saturday on a Thursday night. And little Jolie's going to be with me on this one. So I bring another daughter with me. She went with me last year to Crowley ISD. We're going to go down there again. We saw OUAZ last year. Well, we're going to get to see Lindsey Wilson this year. And that one, I love the intersectional matchups in week one, and there are a lot of them. So keep that in mind. That's Thursday night game. Another game I'm looking forward to, Bethel at Friends. It's always a big one. That one's going to be in Riverfront on November 2nd. And we're also going to try to be at that game, too, up in Wichita for Midwest Sports Saturday. And I think the one that I'm looking for other than that one is November 9th, and it is Baker at Mid-America Nazarene. Been talking about those two teams a lot. That's where it all shakes out. That one is in Olathe, and we're going to try to be in Olathe sometime this year, possibly for that one. I don't know. Just depends on what other games I may happen to be calling at that point in time. So, Corey, the game you're looking forward to?
Oh, yeah. We'll start on week 0, and Henchman will like this one. It's going to be a nice, great matchup. Georgetown at Montana Tech. I'm absolutely looking forward to it. It's going to be gorgeous up there, and you get to see who both of these teams are very early on in the season. Second, St. Thomas playing host to Kaiser. Winner takes the sun, and then I'm going to take a page out of your book and go with Benedictine at Mid-America Nazarene. That's going to be another good one.
What
the last 2 years, that one's been huge.
Did you have that one, or if not, I missed it. But
what? I'm sorry,
Corey.
Benedictine. What's that game? Is that early?
Benedictine Mid-America Nazarene game.
That's a November 2nd tilt. So late season.
It's been the season finale the last 2 years, so that one should be a lot of fun. Vince, any games stand out to you?
You know, I'm going to go to the Sooner, and specifically, I'm going to go to OUAZ's schedule because two games that are really compelling to me is week 2 where they host Texas Wesleyan to avenge last year's lone blemish on their record, and then we go 2 weeks later, coming off the bye week, where they host Texas College and they're going to score 100 points on them. I'm going to see that. I love watching the offense of Mike Nesbitt. So I'm sorry. I mean, they're coming to town after OUAZ's bye week, nice and rested, and yeah, they're going to look to put triple digits on them. So
I mentioned I was down in Fort Worth last year, or actually at Crowley last year, Crowley ISD, and that was the game I was at, Vince. First time that Texas Wesleyan had ever beaten OUAZ, and it was a big time atmosphere, and it was a big time game too. And the Rams come over with the win, and as you mentioned, the lone loss on the schedule last year for OUAZ. James, I know you have teams in your backyard. Pretty much.
Joey's never going to ask us to come back on the show again, by the way, guys. We're not being agreeable enough here for us.
No, I absolutely, I love it. You are my friends, and I can't imagine any other way. I'm so thankful for you guys. James?
Yeah, well, let's stick with some late season matchups because I love games that are late in the season. I mean, I love the early, but Corey mentioned the really great one here to start off, but the Georgetown. But like end of the season, I've been here building up Dort, and the big test for them is going to be Northwestern at Dort November 9th. And Dort gets to host that one. You know, Northwestern, they've got 2 road games. And the week before, they're at Morningside. Like, this is going to be the test for Northwestern. Morningside, Dort, back-to-back weeks, end of the season. To me, that's going to determine the GPAC. And, I mean, hey, GPAC's been represented in the national championship game for how many years now in a row, it seems like. So that at least these 6 are enormous games. And then I got one more for you. We're going to go look at talk about that team we talked about last year, College of Idaho Yotes. We said they lost that game to Southern Oregon. Well, guess what their final game is this season? Hosting Southern Oregon. So what's going to happen this year? Southern Oregon going to get that last-second win. Is that going to be the win that gets them into the playoffs? Or did you guys just gas up this Southern Oregon team? They're going to be 4-5 heading in this game, and we're going to be like, boy, can College of Idaho keep this within 20 points? So, no, I think that's going to be a really good game. Southern Oregon is very good, and that's going to be a fun one at the end because it really doesn't matter what Southern Oregon's record is. You're going to be looking at it going, oh, please don't lose. Please not again. Not again. Not again. Not again. Not again. Not again. We just not go in the playoffs with this. So there's going to be a lot of psychology to that one. I'm looking forward to that one. That's November 16th, so it's late. You're getting close to Thanksgiving on that one.
All right, I did skip something because I wanted to hear your opinion on this. I know what Corey's is, so I'm going to go ahead and ask it anyway. Lots of first-year coaches this year. I think, there are quite a few of them this year. First-year coaches, even more as we found out Sterling's getting a new head coach. Bethel's getting a new head coach. Those are things we found out this summer. Interim coaches in both those positions. Give me a first-year coach that you think is going to have a good season and will define successful season as we go along. Corey, who do you think is a first-year coach that's going to have a good year this year?
I mean, it's got to be Miles Russ. I'm just going to go ahead and take that batting practice fastball and serve it right over the center field fence. Look, I mean, you got to
for him.
He did, and when Joey posed this question earlier, I'm like going, "Can I have Miles Russ?"
Tell him who Miles Russ is.
That is the former recruiting coordinator for Kaiser, now the head coach of Kaiser, able to keep a lot of the team together from that national championship run. And you're working with a lot coming through in year one, and you get to get your regime off to a good start, I think. And I think it's going to be a good year for Russ.
Yeah, the cupboard's definitely not bare then. And we use that word successful. I want to make sure it was in the question because I think it means different things in different places. And my only question on that, coming off a national championship with the roster he has, is anything less than another national championship, a successful season? And I think that's an unfair question. And that's why I said it right now, because I think some people may ask that. I think it's an unfair question. But I do think they have a good year. And, yeah, Corey definitely did he wanted Miles Russ in when it comes to that. So, James, first-year coach, you might have a good season?
Well, I think it's kind of an easy one, actually. And you know what? I'm going to go to the Sooner because they got these new coaches coming in. I think Brad Sherrod at Texas Wesleyan has a really, really good chance to make a good start here to the season. The Rams almost made it to the playoffs last year. We talked about just barely missing. He gets to step in. And to a really good program, one it's kind of new. I mean, they're not even 10 years old. I know they kind of rebooted it from 50, 60 years ago, but no, this team's been improving every season, and someone needs to win the Sooner, and they've been close every year. And I think he can step in. I think he can make that difference, and keep an eye on the Texas Wesleyan Rams. You got to keep an eye on them this year. I know I picked Ottawa, but if Ottawa doesn't win, I think it's going to be a Texas Wesleyan, maybe Langston, but yeah, keep an eye on those Rams.
Coach Brad Sherrod had a couple of stints at schools in Texas, no stranger to the state. UTSA, by the way, I think most recently, and then heading over. He's had quite a journey in his coaching stint, and now in Fort Worth. Vince, a first-year head coach that might have a good season this year?
Before I answer, I just have to ask James what it costs to change all the branding from Sagu to Nelson.
Good grief.
What was involved with that? That's like changing the name of a street in your town. I mean, it is just it's amazing.
I've heard that any school that rebrands, you are looking in the neighborhood of $3 to $5 million for a small Christian school. So that's kind of roughly the price. Is that what gets spent? I don't know, but that's roughly what the budget's got to be.
Okay, so to answer the question, Joey, my answer is the same as Corey's in that when we're talking about success of a program, I mean, is he a new head coach? He was the assistant head coach. He helped start the program 7-8 years ago. He was there with Doug Sosha. And we talked about anything less than a national championship. Had Doug Sosha stayed, I don't think he would have won another national championship there, especially, what you're seeing across the country and some of the other teams and what we're going to see this year in the other conferences. So I think a strong showing, keeping the team together, and finishing and hosting and maybe advancing quarterfinals. I think that's the mark of success this year for Kaiser. Miles Russ.
All right. Okay, I'm gonna use the word successful. Does he have a successful season this year? And I'm going to say that Coach Sean Daniel has a successful season this year. Coach Sean Daniel, who is the head coach of the Simpson Red Hawks. And by the way, and same thing, a program, first-year program. I want to give a shout-out to Julian Mendez. I'll be watching the William Woods Owls this year. Love the helmet and all that. But, by the way, I like Simpson's helmet too. I think Simpson's, and I say this with respect, I think William Wood's schedule is a little bit tougher on the whole, and I think it becomes a little more challenging for the Owls. I think Simpson has a couple of spots. Now, I say that they're going to open the season either first game or second games against College of Idaho. That's very tough. But I think on the whole, I think there are some winnable games, and I think the Redhawks come in, and I think they surprise a couple of people along the way. And if Simpson comes away with, over-under on the Redhawks maybe being 2.5, I think if Simpson comes away with 3 wins, I think it's a very successful season for their opening, and I think Coach Daniel has them on the right track. And then they head into the brutally tough Frontier officially next year. So get some wins now while you can, Coach. It's going to be tough after that, but that's who I think may have a good year. I think it'll be fun to watch anyway. All right, well, guys, and by the way, Henchman, thank you for being a part of this, and for everyone else who's been watching tonight. As we close tonight, I want to give the folks who are here with me an opportunity to show their wares just a little bit and tell you where you can find them, because they have a lot of cool things going on, as we mentioned a little bit earlier today. So James of the Champion Sports Network and also Nelson University Sports Network, but that was a mouthful. So tell us where they find you and what are you going to be doing when football season starts?
Yeah, go ahead and subscribe at Champion Sports Network on YouTube. That's where we're going to be hanging out. We're also at CSN_NAIA on X, Twitter X Twitter. Don't know what we're calling that, but that's where we hang out. Usually those 2 spots. If that's all hard to remember, just go to championsports.network. Just hit the links. It'll take you right there. We got a football show coming up this fall, hoping to launch in mid-September. We're going to be covering NAIA football, just like the others right here on the show are doing. And you'll be able to watch, and we're going to have some fun along with that show, going over highlights, great moments, all the great people in NAIA football.
Really quickly, a shout out to both Dave and Dale, who have Morningside ties, no strangers to the channel here, and shout out to Zach and Drew as well. So look forward to watching them. But thanks, guys, for watching and being a part. Vince, where do they find you, and what are you doing here in a couple of weeks?
Well, you can. I don't know. I'm just so humbled that I'm amongst all this greatness here tonight. But these are the preeminent experts in NAIA football. You got Joey in the middle of the country. You got James, and then of course Corey occupying the East. But our little show, you can find us on YouTube at Varsity Sports Show, on X, every major social media platform. And then, of course, if you've got a radio nearby and you're in the state of Arizona, Saturday mornings, Varsity Sports Show on AM 1060, KDUS Arizona, and Sunday mornings on in Houston, Texas on ESPN 97.5, 92.5 FM, Sunday 9 to 10 Central Standard Time.
Man, you span like 3 time zones just with your radio shows, and then there's whatever it is, the Arizona weirdness that is the Arizona time zone, if you will. I mean, everybody else is in daylight time, and you're in standard right now. So
yeah, we don't have to change our clocks. See, we're pretty well ingrained, and we know who we are. We have an identity. So,
man, Texas doesn't change their clocks. They think they're the greatest thing since sliced bread, man. I don't know what you guys think you are. Arizona's the one, man. Oh, we just set time. Everyone else works off of whatever we do. Right. Man, I don't want to hear about Texas anymore.
Hey, Corey, out there, and my goodness, we're getting close to 11 o'clock Corey's time. Corey's gonna have to go to bed sometime soon and take care of his family. So let me tell us where you are. Where do they find you, and what are you going to be doing? You're going to be calling some games here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, going to be doing the second season of Thomas University Nighthawk football. So you can pick that up on the Sun Digital Network. I don't know what Vince is going on about being humble. My guy's the only one of us with the syndicated show. Yeah, look, man, he's got it going on. But you can find us anywhere at NAIAFBALL. We will be everywhere, and you can catch us if you're a patron. We'll be doing a live watch along on that first Thursday night to open up the season. Do a live Patreon watch along of the first games to start the year.
I want to do a live show at Studio B at Joey McWilliams' place there in his studio. All of us get together. Can we plan something this season? Is that possible? I know, Corey, it's a little bit of a reach for you. James, a little closer for you, but what do you think? Corey, you got all that money coming in from AdCraft, for gosh sakes. Maybe they'll get you that.
Hey, listen, it's easier for you guys to fly into DFW and make that quick little trip down to Waxahachie.
Yeah.
And
Why don't you guys come here? We'll do a super
Champion
show
Studio.
here.
We'll host
Maybe
it right
on our
there.
show this fall, huh? Bring you all you guys into Dallas. Let's do that.
It'll be fun.
Heck
Well,
yeah.
really quickly, let me just tell you, you can. I appreciate you watching Midwest Sportsnet tonight. Thanks to everybody for watching. Please do subscribe if you haven't already. We do have channel memberships too now, which is kind of pretty cool. I'm excited about that. A couple of members, and I would encourage you, please be a part of that because it does help us keep going and keep the lights on here in Studio B. We like having the lights on in Studio B. That's always fun. Next live show here, I believe, unless we sneak up with something and I start talking about Friends in Mid-American Nazarene again, will be on Wednesday night. And then we have a Midwest Sports Saturday from studio. And then it goes back to Thursdays and Sundays for our live shows talking NAIA football after that, as we have a lot going on. Well, no, I think so. We're going to be on the road on August 29th. We will be close to Waxahachie, but not that close. We'll be in Fort Worth. We're in the state of Texas. I crossed the Red River for this one, James. We will be there Midwest Sports Saturday on a Thursday, and that's going to be for Lindsey Wilson and Texas Wesleyan. That'll be an afternoon start time. And then we have a few more Midwest Sports Saturdays live shows from campus, Midwest Sportsnet. We will be in Wichita. We will be, I'm almost guarantee you, unless my daughter's firstborn son is born in some weird time, we're going to be in Fulton, Missouri sometime in September. By the way, somebody said in the chat that he wasn't going to be named after me. He already is. It's Samuel.
Yeah, that was me.
Just
I wouldn't.
Samuel Joseph is coming along, and he'll know that'll be there. So we have a few of them.
I got a text for Joey. I hate to tell you, I got a text from your daughter, and it's not going to happen after this. So
that's all right. We're going to try to make Olathe this year and a few more, but definitely we're going to be in Fort Worth at Crowley ISD on Thursday, August 29th. It'll be an afternoon show, so please tune in for that on that Thursday. Gentlemen, it's a privilege to call you friends, and I'm very thankful to have you all on the show tonight. Corey, I know it's late for you. You've had a lot going on all day long, and I mean right up to our showtime here. Corey's been taking care of business, church business, and everything like that. I appreciate it. James, thank you so much for being there. I know you're just down the road, but still, I appreciate you taking time. And Vince, has the sun gone down yet? No, it hasn't gone down yet. Not where you are. So, hey, you've still got more time to your day. But no, sir, I appreciate you taking time to be there and be on the program. And Corey, you mentioned that he's syndicated. I had a radio show on a local station here in Bryan County in Durant. I was on the midday from 10 to 2. But Vince, I was voice tracking. So I certainly wasn't syndicated. I was voice tracking. They put me on in the midday, and they said, here's where he can't do too much damage. So we'll go from there. For Corey, for Vince, for James, I'm Joey McWilliams. For everybody in the chat, Stephen, thank you for coming on tonight and being a part of the show as well. Dave, Dale, Hinchman, and everybody else who was in the chat. God bless you guys tonight. Thank you so much for watching, and definitely keep following us this fall. We're going to have fun watching a very good NAIA football season. God bless you all. Have a great night.